Hey, everybody. It's October 10th already, and we are in the second week of the month of self care. And today it's all about loving yourself, and it's more to do with the mental and emotional self care, not in the terms of anything else you may be thinking. It is about how do you take care of yourself, basically, in a way that you can start to fall in love with you. This is not as difficult as it sounds. Many people have been down this road and they've tried and they still struggle with it, but it is actually pretty simple. Rather than learning something and acquiring something, you have to actually learn to let go a lot more. And we're going to talk about what are some of the misconceptions of loving yourself and how you can actually do it. So, welcome to Webinars That Inspire with me on every Saturday. I'm Aditi Narvan, your transformational facilitator, your transformational mentor, your therapist, an artist, and an entrepreneur. All right, so let's dive in. This webinar is about understanding how your mind functions and what your emotions are there for, and being really more at peace with it. Loving yourself isn't an act, or it's not words that you speak to yourself, it's not any mantra or any affirmation or anything like that. Loving yourself is actually a state of being. It's a way of being, it's a state of being, it's the way you are that speaks it. And others around you will notice it. You're not exactly sitting and thinking, oh, I'm loving myself right now so much. None of that. So, although everybody is an advocate of self love, not a lot of people know what it is to actually follow through with it. Nothing works until and unless you have made a real choice and action that comes from the space of it. So, for example, you may call yourself a writer, but you aren't a writer unless you write on a regular basis and publish yourself, whether it is a blog or it's a book or whatever it is. I'm not talking about publishing yourself on social media posts. I hesitated, for example, to call myself an artist for the longest time until my paintings actually started to sell. And I now practice it on a regular basis that I can actually start to call myself as an artist. So, in the same way, acknowledging yourself is one step towards loving yourself. So, these are all acts that you kind of take to prove to yourself that yes, the love is there for yourself. And I know that many of you here today are possibly, seekers from all over the world. You guys probably have had journeys with, gurus and teachers and all of that for years together. And honestly, there isn't anything astoundingly new that I'm going to share with you today. I'm going to keep it as simple as possible, which I generally tend to do. I have the knack of being able to break complex things into simple things to understand them. But our spiritual journeys, our seeking journeys, uh, are not really going to amount to anything unless you actually begin to take the action to prove to yourself that there is love for you. So before diving into what you can do to love yourself, let's first find out those scenarios where what loving yourself isn't really. What are the misconceptions that are there around it? So, one of the big things that is, about loving yourself is that it is about always feeling great, always feeling positive, always feeling on top of the world. And it's such a huge misconception because it becomes an internal pressure for you to remain a certain way, and which also means that you might kind of glide over or just go over those harder parts of you. Each of us has various sides. We have the light side, we have a dark side, and we have a huge gray side in between. So when we start to think about just remaining positive or feeling great all the time, we're actually doing a huge disservice to ourselves. You will be great at times, and other times you will suck. You will absolutely suck, and both are fine. But here, the commitment is that you find yourself to be fluid. You find that you can actually go between emotions and mental states just the way seasons do, seasons in nature. It's one of the things that I tell a lot of people to get themselves off the hook with trying to feel great all the time. Don't do it, because it is one of the forms of abuse, actually. And we have discussed abuse in the month of August. So here the idea is to remain unflinchingly your first choice, and to see for yourself, to acknowledge for yourself what's going on, what season am I in right now, what emotions are coming up right now, and to be okay with it, and if you do choose yourself over others at times, it's not a selfish thing, it's perfectly fine, because you feel you do need attention right now. And if you sometimes do choose somebody else over you, it's also because you know that you've already given yourself what you want to give. You've given yourself enough. There is a feeling of being enough, and that feeling of being enough is actually the feeling of loving yourself, that you needn't need anything, you don't crave anything, there's no desperation for anything from within. So that is the act of loving yourself, actually, versus pink fur and bubble baths and massages and shopping with your girlfriends. That's not what loving yourself really is. Another thing where there's a misconception about loving yourself is that I gotta have a rocking life where I enjoy everything. Nothing could be farther than the truth. A lot of people strive for that. A lot of people strive for happiness. There is even, I know a couple of people who are happiness coaches. I'm not knocking it. I don't know what their methodology for delivering happiness for others is. But the fact remains is that you cannot deliver happiness for somebody else. You have to find it on your own. And the only way to actually find it is stop trying to be happy all the time. You can't. You can't be enjoying your life all the time. There are going to be days where you're going to absolutely hate your life. And you've got to acknowledge that in that moment. And you've got to be completely okay with the fact that I'm in a phase right now where my life sucks and I absolutely hate it, and then just be okay with that. Not trying to fix it or look good, or anything that comes from that space, really. You want to put yourself sometimes through the unpleasantness that life has in store for you. That's also self love. So, for example, knowing very consciously that you're going to get into certain states of being where you're not going to like what's happening, but you know that there is something much, much bigger on the other side for you. And that makes a huge difference, because it means that you're willing to stand up and be tough and have the courage to follow through with something, to be able to be so committed to yourself that anything happening on the outside of you, however pleasant or unpleasant it may be, you can absolutely take it on the chin. So, for example, let's go with a lighter example. Something like you want to lose a few pounds or a few kilos, and you know that on the other side of it, there's going to be a far more fit body, stronger body, feeling lighter, agile, better digestion, better focus. You know all the benefits of it. I don't need to get into that. And you may choose to have a period of a few weeks or a few months where you put yourself through the workouts. There are going to be aches and pains, and there are going to be sacrifices, and there's going to be a lot of stuff that you're going to be doing which is going to be unpleasant, but you're okay to do it because you have a commitment to yourself. And that's what loving yourself is. Loving yourself isn't about losing weight, but loving yourself is about being okay with the unpleasantness and being okay with the days that are great and the days that suck. The other thing that loving yourself isn't is it's not a popularity contest where you're seeking to be loved and liked and approved by others, and where you have an X number of likes on social media, or you're really popular in WhatsApp groups and all of that stuff. And you may be loved and liked by other people, but it doesn't equate you loving you. A lot of people feel that how they come across to others matters a lot, because that's one way they feel that they can give themselves the permission to love themselves. You couldn't be farther from the truth. There are so many people that I know who are hugely popular, they're hugely famous, and they absolutely hate themselves. Um, So what happens on the outside in terms of popularity and being loved and liked and being famous or whatever that is doesn't equate you loving yourself. It just means that others see something in you that you're not willing to see in yourself, or they have a story of you that they're more in love with than the reality of you. And there is a distinction. So your job is to get past the story that you have of yourself and get to the reality of who you are. A lot of people are very delusional about who they are, but that also we will discuss in the points ahead and why that happens and how you can get past it. But more importantly, what I want to tell you is that taking a real look at yourself doesn't mean sitting in front of the mirror and talking to yourself. It doesn't mean, um, chiding yourself about stuff, meaning that not to scold yourself about stuff. It really is a more relaxed state. I see so many people getting worked up about who they are and whether they love themselves, and it's made to be such a big deal. Even if I tell somebody, oh no, I'm very comfortable with being angry at times, and oh, you must really love yourself. Well, I don't know. I haven't thought about it really, because it just happens in a moment. Because the commitment to yourself is so much greater that what people say about you in that moment really makes no difference. I hope you guys are really getting it, and I'm not, winding around in circles with this one. Um, but let's play this out, and let me explain further so you guys will get. If you're not getting it, you guys will get what I'm talking about. So when you say that you want people to love you and you think that it's a popularity contest, I know that a lot of you would probably blatantly say that, oh no, 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 I don't do that. But I want you to just watch out for those parts of you that are extremely subtle, that play out. Like, for example, I'm launching a course next week, and for me, it's very, very critical at this point that people like me, and that people like what I have to offer them. And it shows up, and I'm okay with that. I'm not doing it as an effect, meaning that just because you guys like my content or you like my course or you like me, it doesn't mean that I'm going to like myself more. So I'm not at the effect of it. So I already like me. I think I'm okay. I'm not dead, so I'm okay, because for me it's just either two of the states. Everything in between is quite transitory. And if I'm in a place where I am seeking approval, I'm very aware of why that is and for how long that is, and that it is purported towards something, towards an end result. And then beyond that, it's not there. And that's perfectly fine. And, so you get really honest with yourself as to if you are seeking popularity, what is it for? Is it a lifelong desperation that's there within, or is it a momentary thing because you're doing something and it's very natural to want to have people's approval for it because you are doing it for people. So try to get the distinction between these two things. But more importantly, when you look at your own personal life, your inner circle of people, look at where you're trying to have that desperation to be popular even with them now. In one of our earlier webinars, we spoke about detoxing your life, and we also spoke very briefly on detoxing from people over there. That's where you need to understand who really adds value to you and who do you add value to. Yeah, I mean, that's where it's really, what do I say? That is serious levels of stock taking with, getting to understand um, the deeper layers where the energy flows between people and you, and why that is very, very critical for you to be aware of. Hey guys, I think I got thrown out of. Oh, you guys are still here. Okay. So let me restart the recording. I don't even know where I was last. Okay. Let me just start the recording and I will go over the last point again. My internet is apparently gone down. Sorry about that. Okay. All right. So we were talking. My last line to you guys was that loving yourself is an ongoing stock taking exercise. And it's not about letting yourself slide back into complacency and laziness. So, yeah, let's move to the next point. Hang on a second. There we go. All right. Okay. Another thing is that what we do is we tend to have, you know, okay. So when we connect with people in relationships, the ones what I call the special relationships, like your spouse, your partner, your lover, your kids, your parents, your siblings, and possibly maybe your closest friends. You think that if you prioritize others over you, it also means that you love yourself because, oh, there's oneness and we're one. And okay, nice, romantic, very sweet, but completely useless. It's great to have it in music and lyrics and poetry and stories and film, but in reality, what happens is if we depend on that kind of oneness, merging, union kind of thing with somebody else, every time somebody leaves us, it breaks us apart and we do tend to fall apart. So, obviously, this isn't any kind of glue that you can rely on to hold yourself together. Each breakdown then teaches us what we are actually missing in giving to ourselves. So instead of looking at it as a romanticized version of reality and of an idea of what romance or beauty or relationships could be, it's really nice to have it in stories, seriously, but you genuinely have to be very pragmatic, because instead of trying to match yourself to what that ideal is, try to keep that ideal where it is, appreciate it, appreciate the beauty of it, but also appreciate the beauty of the reality that you are, and understand that you can't actually be that way. It's nice to have glimpses of it, it's nice to have moments of it, but your story is not a Bollywood story or a Hollywood story or whatever that story is. And don't get me wrong, I love that stuff. I'm a total hopeless romantic, but not when it comes to my relationships in terms of being pragmatic. And I find that pragmatism in relationship actually lends itself greatly to be able to love yourself. It means that we need to strengthen ourselves much greater, give ourselves that glue that we are hoping from somebody else. And then you actually start to cherish the connections that you have. Okay, another thing that loving yourself isn't is about pushing yourself too hard. You think that, earlier we spoke a little bit about commitment to yourself, and I gave you the example of, losing weight and stuff. So when it comes to that, what happens is we tend to push very, very hard because we have a goal. Now, here's the funny thing. There's a very fine line between committing to yourself and the insanity of pushing yourself too hard. You want so hard to become what others see you as, or want you to be, or want out of you, or whatever. Uh, the funny thing is that when you push yourself too hard, you actually start to resist it at the same time, and you don't want that. What you want ideally is to uphold the commitment and bring down that resistance you have to you. So it's a fine balance. It's something that you're going to have to become subtly very aware of and keep kind of internally just checking, uh, where am I at? Am I driving myself batshit crazy, or am I being committed to myself? And which one am I really being right now? Am I being crazy, or am I actually creating something for myself? So being in that question, and you'll be able to sail past it. The other thing that loving yourself isn't is rejecting parts and pieces of you. So the funny thing is that the more you reject parts and pieces of you, the more you will find other people who will also reject those exact same parts of you. So, for example, if you're a person who is a straight shooter, like you're very direct and you're very honest, and you have foot in the mouth syndrome. So every time you open your mouth to say something, you put your foot in it, and then there's like a oopsie moment. So, and you wish that you were a bit more diplomatic, and you struggle with that part of you. You will strangely find people around you that will reflect this. So they will be people who will start to have a problem with your directness. And what it'll do then in turn is start to keep you feeling guilty about yourself time and time again. And you will find that you will never relax into this part of you that's a straight shooter. But that's the thing, you need to switch the internal dialogue over here and go, yes, I can be a straight shooter. It's just what makes me more comfortable in living with myself. And I'm the only one who lives with myself. So for me, that's a way to be. Now, you can also at that time then be open that, okay, if diplomacy is required in a certain area, if that's the energy I'm meant to be in a certain area, I'm also open to it. So, see the two scenarios. There is one scenario where you're direct and you're honest and you're a straight shooter and you hate it and you're trying to fix it constantly. The other scenario is that, yes, I am a straight shooter and it does happen. There is acceptance and there is no resistance, and you're more comfortable. And when you're more comfortable and there is no resistance, there's also an openness towards new states of being. So, if you want to shift and change, it's that switch. It's about stopping resistance and moving to a place of what is known as self acceptance. But how do you do that? And that's what I'm showing you, is that understanding that you can be a direct straight shooter at times, but it doesn't mean that's who you are all the time. And you're willing to have diplomacy as well. Because if that's an energy that's required from you at certain times in your life and in certain experiences of your life, you're happy and you're willing to have it. And that's just it. No guilt, no self judgment, and so much easier to change parts of you. Loving yourself is also about seeing that you are beyond all the qualities that you think you are. So, we all have certain qualities and characteristics that we employ to survive in this world. Due to a set of experiences and circumstances in your life, you've become a certain way. And these are nothing but simply coping mechanisms or mechanisms for surviving or thriving. But the thing is that we have a certain error in the way we see ourselves. And hence, there is resistance and self judgment. And hence, we don't like ourselves that much. You think that you are that quality. You think that you are that quality pretty much 24/7, 365. And that's impossible to be. So, what is true is that you can be sometimes, and then you cannot be that other times. So, for example, if you lose your temper, say 10 times a year, and you call yourself an angry person, you own it, you say that, okay, I'm an angry person. You can say it lightly, but not to mean it to a point of self judgment, to say it as an awareness. So, for example, you say that, okay, I can be angry. I do get angry about 10, 15 times a year. But I can also be very, very peaceful and calm when needed, so I'm actually both. But if you stick to that part of you and you judge that part of you that's angry and you go into total self judgment, you're never ever going to see when it is that you're actually being peaceful. You'll be too angry and too self judgmental to notice when you're being peaceful. I hope you guys get that. And that isn't self love. You know, Self love is more really about getting that I employ anger when I need to as a reaction, and that could change. I could be a little more aware. I could possibly be hurting somebody, and I really don't want to do that. Instead of going into, oh, I got angry and that sucks, I'm so horrible, I'm such a bad person, da, da, da. So there's anger and guilt now, and then there is shame, and then there is regret, and then there is just, it's a whole pyramid on top of it. You want to avoid that. Okay. You step into a quality, remember that each of us has a quality. We step into that quality for a certain period of time and we step out of it. Is it reactive? Possibly. How can you make it responsive? By being aware of it, being mindful of it, and asking yourself, I wonder how I can change this. Can I accept the fact that I can be angry? And the interesting thing is, none of it is real, none of it is true, simply because anything that comes and goes cannot be real and true. It's really as simple as that. You have to always remember what stays. What stays is you. A quality comes, you become that quality, it leaves you. It's really as simple as that. But what we do in the error of saying, when the quality comes, we take that quality, we stick it to us, and we say that that's me. So just remember that is the distinction. And that's what the difference between self judgment and self love really is. And last but not the least, what self love isn't, it isn't, especially those spiritual seekers out there, it isn't about attaining nirvana or moksha or enlightenment or whatever it is that you think is going to free you from the human condition of suffering. Loving yourself is simply being okay with what is, being completely fine with what is. I love this example, and I'm going to share it with you. Uh, the example is, it's raining. Oh my God, I can't go out now. It's going to get flooded. And look at that. I hope the leakage doesn't start again. It's going to become mucky and messy and da 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 da. Familiar? Yeah. And the other one, it's raining. Yes, it is. That's it. It's really as simple as that. You know, it's taking in what's occurring right now and not reacting to it. It's honest, it's simple, and it's in a state where you're simply loving what is. Now, it doesn't look like you're loving anything because there are no hearts, emoticons all over the place. But that's exactly what my point is. Loving yourself isn't a happy, bouncy, jumping up and down kind of energy. Loving yourself is actually the quietness of you, the peace part of you, the most accepting part of you, the most non judgmental space of you. It's a space of emptiness, it's a space of everything is okay. You know, it's that space where when I see my cat lounging on my couch, he's kind of like this, and his tail is just swishing. And that's the point I look at him and I go, huh, this little bugger loves himself. Look at that. Because he's in that space where life's good. That's it. So, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's such a beautiful space to be. And that's what I said at the beginning of this webinar, is that it's seriously more about just letting go of so many more things than acquiring things or doing anything per se. It's just a space of just letting everything drop, just letting it drop for a few seconds so that you can just breathe and you can just be. And in that moment, you can possibly just understand a glimpse of what it is to really love yourself. Now that you have a better sense of what loving yourself isn't, let's take a look at 9 simple ways in which you can actually start to become this state. So, the first one is that you spend most of your time inside your head, like 99% of the time, and you want to try to make it an amazing place to be. So, becoming aware of your internal dialogues. We talk a lot of rubbish to ourselves, and we genuinely have no excuse for it. We also allow the voices of so many other people to be in our head, uh, as if we are still a child that needs to be reprimanded constantly. And that's like walking on eggshells inside your head. Why would you do that to you? You'll never ever get free of those voices. You'll never get free of the voices of your parents, your teachers, the elders, your guru, whoever it is that's still in your head. And it also means that you're still living for other people. And my question is, when are you going to start living for you? When are you going to start listening to your own softest, deepest voice that's been trying to get your attention for a long, long time? So start to listen to that internal dialogue and ask, whose voice is this? Is this the voice of my mother? Is this the voice of my father? Is this the voice of my guru, my teacher, my boss, my whoever it is, my boyfriend, my husband, my wife, whoever it is that's whose voices are the most dominant for you, and you want to try and get past that and ask that, if this were my voice, my own voice, what would I actually be saying to myself? Would it be kinder? And it often is. Secondly, and we have spoken about this point before, have boundaries, please. We did a whole webinar in the month of August about this topic, so please go back there and watch it. Now that you can also listen to it on my SoundCloud account, soundcloud.com/Aditi Nirvan. just go through it because it has a mine of information, and you need to understand the distinction between where you start and the other where you start and the other person starts, or where their energy is and yours is. That boundary, you need to become very, very aware of what that boundary is, where you start and the other one is. So please become very aware of that when you're interacting with somebody that you love. Just have that part of you that is an open awareness to, kind of step back and look at you and that whole conversation between the two of you from a third person's or an observer's point of view. And it's so interesting to watch who you are, what your facial expressions are, what space are you speaking from. And it's really interesting. So try and see if you can do that. It's a nice little exercise you guys can do. The third point for you to remember is there's literally, like literally, there is nothing outside of you that you need. You have all the raw material within you to start loving yourself. All battles that are there are more within than without. So we battle thoughts and emotions. One thought battling the other thought is all we live in our heads. We very often resist, we shut down, we underplay, we reject, and we self judge constantly. And those are the battles that we are very used to fighting. And if those battles ceased for a moment, you would have a space of lightness and you would actually breathe. And that would be a moment of loving yourself. Simply because you can't be bothered with fighting yourself all the time, and you start to see the gifts that you can actually be without even owning those gifts, in a sense, knowing that those gifts are there for you for this time being, for this purpose, and you're grateful to those gifts that are being offered through you for others. Point number four is that if you find that you have done something wrong to somebody else, or wronged someone, or hurt someone, please don't get into blame. Instead, start to take responsibility. The difference is simply that responsibility is about being honest, it's about having the courage and the willingness to change what you have done. Blame is more about guilt, shame, and therefore inaction. Guilt is a very interesting kind of emotion. Obviously, in my wiser moments, I do feel that guilt is quite a useless emotions. But there are times when I do feel guilty, and I try to understand where I've been in resistance of something. It comes up when you want to prove to others that you are caring. So listen to this again. Guilt happens when you want to try to prove to others or show to others that you care for them. Say, for example, you cost somebody a job opportunity. You may feel terrible for them, all right? And you have every right to. That's a natural human emotion if you care for them. And you may call them up and you may tell them, I'm really sorry, I feel guilty, and da da da, and maybe cry or whatever it is, and find a way to make up for it. But if you're going to wallow in the guilt, guilt is not going to actually let you take action, because guilt is not invested in letting you go. Yeah. If guilt lets you go, you will be able to take action. But guilt is invested in staying. You are invested in keeping it. If you're already a person who feels guilty very, very quickly, then you need to understand what is it that the guilt has been there around for. The act of making up to somebody is the act of taking responsibility and actually care. So versus guilt saying that, oh, I care, but not really doing anything about it. So instead of feeling guilty to show that you care, try to take responsibility and do what you can to let them know that you actually do care. So take responsibility and take yourself off the hook and just be real as possible. Number five, know your triggers, emotional triggers, your mental triggers, with people who are closest to you, and let them in on it. Let them know that this is something that really pisses me off, or it gets me upset, or it gets me jealous, or whatever it is. The only way to ever change anything is to first acknowledge that it exists for you. The rest is easy. So acknowledge that you have certain topics or certain conversations that may trigger you, and you don't want to feel triggered anymore, and hence you would like to bring it to their notice and therefore your notice. So acknowledge that. Number six, please harmonize what you think, you say, and you do. If you're out of sync in any of these three, you will return to self judgment. This is the harshest form of punishment anyone can actually be with. If your words, your energy, your choices, and actions don't match. If you find that they don't, and if you're feeling uncomfortable about having done something, just find out where these things were out of harmony, and you will understand what needs to be changed. Seventh one, one of the very critical parts of loving yourself is to not resist feeling or not to fear feeling. A lot of people are afraid that they will feel something. People are more in fear about what they feel than what they're going to be doing. The funny thing is, feelings come and go, but we can't seem to trust ourselves enough that we'll be able to handle it. That's the thing. When you don't have self love, there is no trust that you can handle things. Many people feel that you would break down, and you'll not be able to handle it, and you'll fall apart. And my point is, even if you do, so what? you know if you fall apart, you will put yourself back together, and you will put yourself back together with the lesson that you were meant to learn. And that, like I said in the first point, that it's all about understanding the seasons of you are what you are, and you don't have to be afraid of it. How many feelings have you felt over this entire lifetime so far? And how many times did you fall apart so far? And aren't you okay? Aren't you okay with all of it? So, are you dead? Are you what? Just a second. I don't know what has started. Just give me a second, guys. Okay, we're recording again. It's about harmonizing what you think, what you feel, what you say, and what you do. Not so much feeling, but in terms of like more thought, speech, and action. They have to be in harmony. And that's known as integrity, being in integrity, meaning what you think and what you feel and what you say and what you do should be aligned. And if it's out of sync with each other, that's actually a place where you allow self judgment to enter. So you can feel completely out of whack for days. In fact, things like, fatigue and a lot of self judgment can come in at those points. So I don't know. I'm sorry. I've just been having very strange trouble with my audio today. I don't know what that is. So just put this on charge. There we go. Okay. All right. So, where were we? We were on point number seven. Don't fear feelings. So, don't resist any feeling that comes up for you. Know that you have been through hell and back already in so many points of time in your life. If you fall apart, you will put yourself together, and you'll put yourself together as a whole new person, which is like even more fun way to be honest. It excites me more than makes me feel scared. It's very stark, but the idea here is that you are either okay or you're dead. There's really nothing in between. This is something my Tai Chi teacher shared with me a few years ago. I had done about 2, 3 years of Tai Chi with him. And, sometimes when we used to do these breathing techniques, they were so hard on the body. They were so hard. I used to literally feel I'm going to burst and die. And, tears would be streaming down my face. My face would go red because you're holding your breath for such a long time, and you're doing the Tai Chi movements. And it's like, I'm going to die any minute. And he just said one thing to me: you will either be okay or you will be 6 feet under. And that's it. Everything else is transitory. And I was like, that's actually a great way to live, because you can actually take everything in your stride when you know that you're in that I'm okay phase, because the other option is death. And that's peace. That's complete peace. And that's fine. So, yeah, there's a lesson for you today. Either you're okay or you're dead, and everything else is transitory. It's very, very zen and very stark, but personally, I absolutely love it. It makes everything so simple. The eighth one is loving yourself also includes creating a lovely support system for yourself. For the longest time, I used to feel that I'm a very independent person. I don't want to depend on anyone. And nice, very immature, juvenile, childish way of thinking of mine. And I still have that in a few areas. But the thing is, interestingly, I have now begun to welcome support. Now, we cannot be truly independent. None of us living on planet Earth can ever be independent completely. So realize that, understand and remember the intricate level of interdependency that exists within all the living beings and in non-living beings on this planet. So, if you are already in a place where there is a support system, why not choose consciously what that support system could actually be? It's based really on what you need in that moment. What do you require? Like, for example, I used to teach these 2, 3, 4, 5 day workshops. And after that, I literally needed 2 days to just detox and recharge. So I would actually just be by myself, like, I'm in a cave. So would switch off my phone, not watch electronics, and just nurse myself to health and be totally fine. Because then I'm up and running and available for the world again. And you do what you need to do in those moments. You ask for support, you ask for someone to take care of your child, you ask for somebody else to do things for you, and it's completely fine. It doesn't make you dependent. It just means that you need to withdraw your energy and turn it inwards towards you, to heal something here, to change something here, to give it to yourself. And that is what actually loving yourself means, is understanding and honoring that you do come first. And it's okay to be selfish, because selfish is, it's a little bit about the self, like when you say, oh, I'll be there at about, around 10ish. It doesn't make you feel bad that you're coming at 10 o'clock, right? So it's selfish around the self. It's about the self. It's not all about the self. It's a little ish kind of way. So it's okay to be selfish. There's nothing wrong with it. And we all make it such a bad thing, because if you are being that, you have so much more available to give to the world. And if you're anything like me, who's just, jumping to do things for other people, you'll need it. You'll absolutely need it. And last but not the least, I can't reiterate this point enough. Please, please, please practice mindfulness. It's not about sitting and just meditating. It is a muscle that you need to develop when you're cooking, walking, bathing, arguing, yelling, screaming, sleeping, anything. Instead of an judgmental internal dialogue, just be in an observer space. Just watch what you're doing, and go, huh, interesting. I apparently got angry with this thing that he said. Oh, look at that. I spilt the milk. I wonder what diverted my attention. Interesting. That's that. Let everything just be an interesting thing for you. Just look at it, watch it. And it's so much more fun that, oh my God, I got angry again. I'm such a horrible person. That, or I can't even handle a milk carton. What's wrong with me? I'm such a duffer and da da da. Not needed. None of the drama is needed. So you get the idea. Loving yourself shouldn't be a task. What are you doing instead of loving yourself is a task, actually. Okay. Everything else other than loving yourself is super exhausting, self debilitating, and a path down the rabbit hole to self annihilation. Loving yourself is actually an act of rebellion in a world of judgment. So please make that choice today. So for today, this is the webinar. I'm going to take questions now, you guys. Um, okay, so let me just check. There are questions. Yes, there are questions. Yes. So while I'm taking questions of people from who have written in, you guys can either type over here in the chat box, or you guys can come on video and ask me anything you like. Mm-mm-mm. Vani from Junjunu. Wow, that sounds like a nice place. I wonder where this place Junjunu is. She's asking, I can't stop myself driving along with my kid during his meltdown. Okay, there's no question. It's more of a declaration or a statement. Okay. I'm assuming that it means that you are also getting triggered by his meltdown. Okay, so that's actually what your kid wants. He's a smart kid, or she's a smart kid. So if you're going along with your kid in this drama, I'm just wondering who the parent is, Vani. Be the parent. A part of parenting is also putting yourself in an observer space and observing your child and their world and what their drama is like. So if you're going to continue to be around there, the child is going to continue the meltdown. With any kind of a drama, get up and walk away. It's really as simple as that. Fortunately, my son has never really done drama, because me making really big eyes at him just stops him in his tracks. But I had an ex mother in law who did a lot of drama. She was adorable, but she did have her drama. And I would just get up and go. The moment she would start it, I would just literally stand up and I'd be like, the room is yours. And I would walk away, shut the door behind. If she followed me, I'd be like, I really don't want you here. So can you go back to your room and do your drama? I don't want to see it. I love you, but I don't love this. And it's really as simple as that. So whether it's a mother-in-law who's doing drama or a child who's doing drama, it doesn't matter. Call it out, or walk away. That's up to you. Uh, Haley from London has asked a question: what will it take to receive all of me with total ease? Choice, Haley. Choice and action that reflects your question, and that's all it really takes. Praveen from New Delhi has asked, already covered, no, various ways and means to keep loving myself. Already done. We've done this. So, okay, guys, what are some of the questions that you guys have? Are there any questions from any of you? Is everything clear to anyone? Nobody has any questions? Should I end the webinar? So quiet. Okay. Yes, Shilpa, madam.
Mm, No question, but Aditi, there has been so many versions of self-love.
Mm-hmm.
For past few years, we've just been listening self-love, self-love. But really, in moments when you are facing a challenge, or
Mm.
if I'm feeling angry, to really and you sometimes in unintentionally hurt people in that.
Mm.
And how do you come back to your balance and really say it's okay? I've done it. I know it's okay.
Okay. So
Forgiving
yeah.
ourselves is the most difficult thing, I think.
Sorry.
Forgiving oneself is one of the most difficult things.
I think forgiveness is made out to be such a huge, heavy thing when it's actually really simple. Okay, so somebody triggered you and you said something that hurt them, right?
Yeah.
In that moment. So, uh, even when you're saying those hurtful words and you realize that you can actually stop yourself in that moment and say it too. I do that. It's like, I'm like, "Duh, duh, 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 duh," and then I'm like, ew, that's awful. Yeah. So do that. It's okay. It's okay to completely stop yourself in that moment and say, okay, I'm sounding horrible right now. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm hurting you. Yeah. And I'm feeling this need to hurt you because I'm angry with you. Acknowledge that feeling under it. It's like when you say this to me or do this for me, this is what I feel dismissed or disrespected, or I feel shut out, and it makes me pissed off because this has happened to me before and I can't take it anymore, and it compels me to get pissed off and say awful hurtful things to you. Do you want me to do that? So you're going straight to the root of it. You're in that moment going deep in it and acknowledging it in that moment. Then you don't need forgiveness because you're just being so super honest with yourself. Forgiveness means that you've done something wrong and you're deeply ashamed of it. And you're cowering under, you're being small. You made yourself really
Yeah.
small. When you're being honest with yourself, you expand and you go like, ugh, I know I must be looking very ugly when I'm yelling at you right now, but I can't help it. I'm
Yeah.
pissed off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aditi, one more
So,
question I'd like to ask.
mm,
Uh, I feel insecure sometimes. How
mhm.
do I accept that part of me?
That you feel insecure.
That's it.
That's it. What is there more than it?
Should you have a need to let go of it? Like you said, there's a
No.
letting go also.
Okay, so you can't let go anything that you haven't acknowledged.
Okay,
You acknowledge it, you call it that it's there, and then it loses its hold over you because you're not hiding it now.
correct.
The act of hiding something makes it difficult to let it go. When you put light on it, it's like, oh, there it is. I've been hiding on it. I've been sitting on it all this time. I've been hiding it for so long. It's now out in the open.
Yeah.
I can, it's easy now. I can move on. It takes a whole lot more energy to hide something
Than two, yes.
than actually throwing a light on it and letting it go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's draining to hide something.
Thank you, Aditi.
Most welcome. Okay, guys, any more questions? No? I'm going to go then.
Thank you.
Most
Thank you,
welcome,
Aditi.
Penny.
Wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you, Shilpa. Frenny was saying something?
No, just a thank you.
Okay, most welcome, guys. All right. So, for those who haven't been present, my course, The Ultimate Guide to Launching Your Business Online, starts on the 17th of October. We have just another 3 more days to go for the offer of rupees 9,999 or USD $179. It's a 7 week course for all those people who want to take a business and put it out there online, who have been great at marketing other people but suck at marketing themselves, and you want to learn how to do that. Very, very simple steps, easy to do stuff, and it's super exciting. And join in. You can just inquire with me where to go, what to do, and I will indicate it to you. I will show it to you. Meanwhile, have a wonderful week, and I will see you guys next week for next week's webinar, which is about spiritual self care. And we're going to talk a little bit about how people have misunderstood what spirituality can be, what awakening can be, and yeah, and how we do spiritual bypassing in order to be happy people. All right. Okay, guys. I'll see you guys next week. Lots and lots of love.